What's going on, everyone? Sorry about the delayed start. We're going to be corrupting some Lost Vikings today. Also, I just realized I might have got a annoying Facebook notification. Let me turn that off real quick. Hopefully that didn't transfer over to stream. Just gonna block that for the time being. And we're just about ready here. We're gonna switch over scenes. I don't have a lot of lighting where I'm at right now because it's dark outside. And part of the light attributes to how I light my scene, so I'm not gonna do a face cam. Only because it's super dim in here. But we're almost ready to go. In the background we have Evelyn Forrest from World of Warcraft. I'm a huge WoW fan, but not good enough to play it on stream. I just enjoy the lore and whatnot. Anyways, let's get started here. So if you're unfamiliar with, I'll leave the music a little bit quiet. If you're unfamiliar with how I do my streams, I usually, I'm going to be corrupting on stream and making a stockpile. And before I start, I usually create just one corruption sort of together, and I explain everything that I do to the stream. I go over the blast editor a little bit. I explain my methodology for, sanitizing a corruption, why I sanitize a corruption. We'll throw it on the stockpile, name it, and from there we'll make, maybe 10 or 15 more real quick in rapid fire succession. And then by the end of the stream, we'll have a moderate sized stockpile that we can keep. And in the past, I've uploaded the stockpiles to YouTube after I finish exporting the video to YouTube. However, I don't think they're getting downloaded very often. Actually, not at all. So for the time being, I'm going to put a hold on to uploading those. It's kind of a long process for me. You have to download a bit.ly link and upload it to Drive and do this and that with a bunch of different accounts. But if anyone would like to request the stockpile, feel free to DM me. It wouldn't be a problem at all. I usually still save these somewhere. Probably still on Drive, just so I have a record of all of them. And what I plan to do is towards the end of the year, or maybe the end of this month, I haven't decided. It depends on how often I stream these corruption streams. I'd like to do a culmination stockpile where I throw all these corruptions together, have it reviewed by, if anyone's familiar with Neri, part of the Vinesauce community, have it reviewed by some individuals over with the Real-Time Corruptor, get an opinion on it, and possibly have some bigger streamers take a look at it and maybe play it for a little bit. That's my ultimate goal. So anyway. Let's get started here. Now to completely mute the audio. And we're doing some Lost Vikings. I think I said in the title... Ooh, this is gonna be loud. Something like Uthbert's strength. Uthbert. A Viking sword. Which was like a flexible sword, so I don't know if strength really worked too well. It was made with crucible steel. So I guess it was strong, but And we're gonna go through all the intro. Shall I read this? My name is Eric the Swift, and I can run like the wind and leap tall huts. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to read this fast enough. It is time for me to Balrog and Olaf to go hunting. Have a nice day. He's gonna go run off. You know what I should do is I should pull up a list of the passwords for this game. We'll corrupt, I think, the first scene. I'm Olaf the Stout. I can block anything with my shield. Yeah. We'll corrupt the first scene, and then maybe we'll take some of the passwords and corrupt some other scenes as well. I am Balrog, I'm not going to pronounce that properly. The fierce, I am the toughest Viking, no one can defeat me. Passwords for the Lost Vikings. I've never actually finished the Lost Vikings, so I don't particularly know what all the levels pertain to. There's one like GameFAQs, it goes 1 through 49, levels 1 through 49, in case I just want to pick one at random. But I found one that lists the world specifically, so maybe we'll corrupt a couple times in each world. Maybe at the beginning of each world so we don't spoil anything for anyone that might not have played this game. Oh, I didn't mean to hit enter. Actually, let's go back. I want to keep that going. Nope, life's good. I hope I never have to leave my beloved village. My hero! Later that night. ... Oh, I did it again. Back. If you didn't know, this was developed by... I'm reading off a wiki because I don't have all the names off the top of my head. But it's made by, or developed by Silicon and Synapse, which is now Blizzard Entertainment. Published by Interplay. This was released on the Super NES, the SNES, in 1993. And look at that! Our heroes are being abducted. The clitter clatter that you're hearing in the background. I have so much background noise. I honestly should be using push to talk, but I have caps lock, or F13, as my push to talk button, and usually that will interrupt gameplay. So I have background sound. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too annoying. So the clitter clatter is my ice cubes in my water. Guys, I have a bad feeling about this. That's it. We'll get them all together and exit the first round at least. Probably could have done better with that, but oh well. It's a lot of patience, which I have a decent amount of, but not when I'm crafting these. I'm trying to get through it fastly. Quickly and fastly. Okay. So we're going to corrupt this part here. I'm going to make a manual save state within BizHawk, which is the emulator I'm using bundled with the real-time corruptor, the modules you see on the right side of the screen. And starting off, we're going to take a look at, if I can pull it up here, the various memory domains that we have available to us. So those memory domains are listed here: WRAM, CartROM, video RAM, object files, probably palette, CG RAM, or the visuals being drawn on the screen, APU RAM, the sound, system bus, anything system related, communication between hardware and the rest of the ROM itself. We're going to mess around with these various domains, see what they do when we try to corrupt them. We're going to vary our intensity a bit, intensity sliders up here at the top, and see what kind of corruptions we get just by blasting these memory domains with random data. So starting off with WRAM, we have a very high intensity. We're going to lower it back down to, let's say, 1500. Which, this is the Super NES, so I believe that means 1500 actual memory writes. And we're going to blast the ROM. And immediately we notice that it actually crashes. We get a nice little visual on the screen, and a couple little other visuals here and there, like on the GUI up at the top. So immediately we know we have to have, of course, a much smaller intensity since we are dealing with much smaller ROMs. So I'm going to back it up here. There we go. I'm able to rewind time past or before a corruption ever happened. Now let's bring that intensity down to, let's say, 300. And we're going to manually blast again. This one wasn't so bad. We could actually still play it alright, and by the looks of it, actually everything looks to be okay. There's just some visuals up at the top that are kind of broken. See that one more time. Still right. Couple more times. We're getting a little bit of clown vomit. Looks like we're flying through an asteroid field a little bit. Got little objects flying through the air. Oh, this one, oh. Got an invisible wall in the air there. What's this guy's name? Balgrot? He's a little messy. We'll keep going here. Ooh, that last one. Looks like he's being constantly affected by either slippery floors or gravity. Or like really intense acceleration. Oh, it's like a corruption waterfall falling down. That's the GUI melting. GUI isn't the right word for that. That's a user interface. This is a HUD. A HUD. So heads up display. The HUD is melting. Ooh, there's a crash. Seems like it won't get out of that though. Someone just expressed their concern. A little late. I'd argue. God, this is just vomit now. Let's restart here. So we get an idea of what we can expect with WRAM. We're going to get a lot of visual corruptions on screen. Maybe some objects missing, like how the gate is gone now in front of us. Some of our character models have also disappeared. Sometimes we'll crash. We can expect quality like that. Next up, we got the cart ROM, which may not be utilized, or at least in the sense that we have predefined memory domains here, listed by the real-time corruptor and what generally data would be stored in these areas. But sometimes either it's not stored in this fashion, or it's stored in a different location, or it's not stored in the sense that the real-time corruptor can access it. So corrupting something like cart ROM may not do anything. In this case, it actually does. This is not what I'm going to call a safe, quote-unquote, corruptible domain, since right now I'm rewinding through time, or I'm loading my save state, and yet everything is still broken. So even though I'm loading my clean save state that shouldn't have any problems with it, it's actually still broken. I can't load back, and that's because we're corrupting something that cannot be reversed unless we reboot the core of the machine. So I'm going to hit Control R in order to reboot the SNES core. I'm using BSNES for this. And now we can reload our save state without issue. And we're going to try that again. So each time I'm having to reboot the core, load the save state, which is a little bit of extra work. And so far I'm not seeing anything significant with this memory domain. I'm going to lower the intensity some more. We'll bring it down to 100. This place looks familiar. That's some text that's not supposed to be there. Yeah, it's like we've already been here. Repetition can make your memory a little fuzzy. And then it crashes. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Let's keep moving. Reboot core. Let's save. So we can get some unexpected text. Is that what that was? Because, wait. There's some question blocks here, unless this was actually just some text that I actually skipped over. No, yeah, that was just text that wasn't supposed to be there that became there. G'day, champion gamer. How you doing, man? I'm doing alright myself. We're doing some real-time corruptions. We're corrupting the Lost Vikings, so, you know, we'll get a little bit of this going on screen, some a little bit of mess here and there. We're looking for some mechanical corruptions if we can, but we'll settle for some visual ones if that's all we get. And we're working on making a stockpile, so we're working on making a bunch of corruptions, storing them someplace, and giving them to somebody. Right now we're just messing around with the various memory domains that we have available to us. We've messed with WRAM, which gave us visual corruptions. Right now we're messing with cart ROM, which seems to be giving us some mechanical things. Like we got text in the wrong place. We got a little bit of flickering there. This is a good time to talk about flickering. If you're sensitive to flashing lights, bright lights, loud sounds, anything of that nature, I recommend not watching the stream. If you're sensitive or you have epilepsy or anything like that, because we do have a lot of flashing images on screen, and unfortunately it's unavoidable. So I just, as a safety precaution, I recommend not watching in that case. You're doing alright, Sunday Arvo here. I remember finishing this game years ago, I know, right? Yoinks ago. I was a lower lad. Curious about what corruption is. Corruption? That's a very good question. I can show you what corruption is. So let me hit blast send over here. And you just select a save state though. When I hit this button, we create a save state with a blast layer applied to it. And all blast layer is a fancy word for a bunch of corruptions thrown at a ROM. And that's selected right here in our stash history. I'm going to right click that and open that in what's called our blast editor, which sort of is like a magnifying glass into what the corruption we created was. And essentially all corruption is a bunch of memory writes or a bunch of just random data that you're writing over the ROM with. So say you had a bunch of binary, it's all zeros, and then you decided to corrupt it, you would just put a bunch of ones in there, or a bunch of weird characters, and that would be a corruption. Might not be a very good corruption, it might just be, nonsense, it might break the game, but in this sense, we're trying to get very specific corruptions that break it in very funny or interesting ways. Oh yeah, so many grids and text and numbers. I'm sorry. Each one of these is an individual memory, right? So, in this case, this very first line, all we're saying is we're setting a value in the memory domain called cart_rom, and we're experimenting with what the different memory domains do. So right now we're just learning about cart_rom. Add an address, a source address, or a memory address in this case, 9D0A1, just some random memory address. We're writing the value for 1. And what that does, I have no clue at all. You'll be looking, cool, sounds good, man. Anyways, what that memory address does, I have no clue at all. It could, write a little pixel to the screen, or it could trigger a boss fight. We have no clue what that variable is. If I deconstructed the game and debugged it and figured out maybe what that specific memory write did, I might be able to figure it out. But it's a lot more fun to have some chaos, so that's what we're doing instead. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything on screen I'd like to keep in this case, so we're not going to sanitize this corruption specifically, but after we finish figuring out our source domains, we'll go ahead and start doing some actual corruptions after the fact. So I'm going to clear my stash history here, and we're going to do a little bit more experimenting. I want to figure out what else cart_rom can do. So we'll go through here real quickly, blast the ROM a couple times. That one's a crash. Hey, thank you for the follow, Champion Gamer. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, this is what I do on stream normally, so if you happen to ever drop by, I'm usually corrupting games. Cool, let's see what else we can do with this memory domain. We get a little bit more flashing, so we can expect some visuals. A little bit of warping. I mean, this could be an interesting one to mess with. Could be crash heavy, which is something I worry about and something that I require sanitizing for. But it's doable. I mean, in this case, one of the characters fell, you fell through the floor, so. Who was that? That was the strength. Okay, let's give this another go. A little bit of warping. Okay, cool. So we'll give that a go as well. Definitely a memory domain that we're gonna mess with, something that we know that we can now attack and we don't have to worry about, not doing anything. So, very exciting. VRAM is a very specific one that I usually never touch. So VRAM is the visuals that are drawn to the screen, not in the sense that it's mechanicals or palette or anything like that. It's just like the actual end game, what gets sent to the emulator or the actual screen itself. If I manually blast this with, say, a fairly large corruption, you'll see there's a bunch of stuff just stuck on the screen. And no matter where I move in this room, it's kind of just still stuck there. And what this essentially does is, the way I like to think about it is like putting a film on top of the game or the emulation that you're running. And it's something that really doesn't need to be there. Like, we'll do this a couple times. It does reset as soon as you move the screen away, so you'll see some of the stuff on that wall is now gone. But really, this hides any kind of interesting corruption that you have. If you have like a really neat mechanical one where we say one of the Vikings falls through the floor and starts screaming or something like that, something awful like that, all these visual corruptions are going to do is it's just going to hide that underneath a film that's confusing and hard to look at. So if I ever use VRAM, I'm going to use it in a very sparing sense and only with more chaotic corruptions. Otherwise, I'll leave this memory domain alone. Next up we have OAM, and I'm going to have to load our save state for this one. So OAM are usually object files stored in the ROM, and I can usually associate those with, like, say, sprites or anything moving on the screen. And a good indication that there's stuff stored within OAM is just to manually blast it with a fairly high intensity and see if anything flickers on your screen. I'm not seeing anything flickering right now. I'm going to do an auto-corrupt. Auto-corrupt is every single step it's now corrupting with data, and I'm not seeing anything on screen being corrupted. And I see that a lot with actually Super NES, is the OAM object files aren't actually stored there, or the sprites aren't being stored in that fashion. It's something else that I've yet to find out what we're corrupting. Anyways, so if we saw a flicker, we would make a permanent change. We would make a permanent flicker or a permanent memory write using a different engine. But at the moment, we're not seeing anything, so we're not even going to worry about that memory domain. And now, due to reconnaissance, we know that when we actually create corruptions, we're just going to leave that memory domain out. CG RAM, I can guarantee that the second I hit this button, everything on the screen is going to change colors. Oh, only for a second, so that's interesting. So everything does change colors. However, it looks like the way that the SNES updates its screen is it updates everything on the screen maybe every iteration step. And I'm curious why it does that. So normally, say I was playing, I don't know, A Link to the Past or something, you'll see if you do a CG RAM corruption that everything that's a static object, like the background map or trees and stuff like that, it'll all change colors because it's all just one image that doesn't need to be updated constantly. For some reason, this one actually does need to be updated constantly. Maybe because of the scrolling background. That's what I'm assuming. Even when you're staying still though, it still is updating that background every iteration step. I find that interesting, but still, I mean, it's just good to know. Right now we're using the Nightmare engine, which is just a sort of temporary setting values or temporary blasting values into the ROM or into the emulator. If we switch to the Hell Genie engine, this works similar to Cheat Engine, where it forces a certain memory address to hold a certain value. That value can be randomly assigned, or you can set the value if you actually use Cheat Engine. In this case, it's going to be a random value, and we can edit it after the fact in the blast editor to set a permanent value. But if I hit manual blast now, ooh, that is a lot of flickering. We're going to reboot the core there just so we don't have too much flickering. Let's see, we're going to do a higher intensity, and we're going to increase our cheat count. The cheat count is the determining factor for how many memory writes you have. In Hell Genie engine, that can actually be a little processor intensive, since every single iteration step, in which case it's, I don't even know how many milliseconds, a couple milliseconds, like 10 milliseconds I'd say. It needs to rewrite 100 values. And that doesn't sound like a lot, especially for a computer, but you know, over a couple seconds, that could be a lot of memory writes that has to keep repeating. So now, it seems that no matter what we do, we're going to get a little bit of that flicker, unfortunately. And that doesn't make for a very visually appealing corruption in the end. Only because no one likes to look at that. It's just kind of hurtful in the eyes. The palette swap is cool though. I dig that, but I don't want a palette swap in trade for that flickering effect. It's just, it doesn't look good in the end. So we're not going to use CG RAM. No color corruptions this time around. APU RAM will be the sound, and we do have some music going on, so I'm going to go ahead and blast that. You want to do a very low intensity though, otherwise you'll risk just wiping out any music that there is. We'll keep it at around 30. And we're going to switch from the Hell Genie engine to the Nightmare engine. Oh, my microphone is muted. I noticed the audio getting louder and quieter. Also, some instruments seem kind of out of place. I manually blasted again, and now it seems like we just have the lower bass treble. No, not treble. Lower bass end of the music. A little bit of corruption, like staticky noises. Manually blast again. Now we get a little bit of high pings. It's actually starting to sound like space. Oh, we got a little bit of beat in the back too. Listen to that. Oh, and eventually we actually crashed it, so you can corrupt it so much so that the entire game crashes. Oh, it doesn't take a lot actually. It's not often that we get good music corruptions. Usually you just get screeching audio, or you have sound and then it immediately switches to no sound. So I like when we get a little bit of wiggle room with it. Right now we're doing random data types with the Nightmare engine, meaning that anywhere that it decides to corrupt within memory, it's going to corrupt, or it's going to swap. I guess swapping is the right word either. It's going to set a value. It's going to overwrite the value that's already at that memory location with a value between 0 and FF. Now, depending, I usually find with music having this amount of randomness to be kind of dangerous. Sometimes, you know, it will crash the song, or it will crash the game if it's too high or too low of a value. What we're going to do instead is we're going to use tilt values. So, given a source address, and its previous value, say that value was 50 in hexadecimal, all it's going to do now is tilt that value. So it's either going to subtract 1 or add 1 to that value. So right now it's 50, it might become 51 or 49. Or, well, I guess in this case, since hexadecimal 4 or 5, I'm not good at my hex. But it will increase the value by 1 or decrease it, and that's usually a lot safer for music corruptions because it's not as intensive or not as dramatic of a change. So let's give this a little bit of a try. Manually blasting it a couple times. We got a crash there though. Another crash. Kind of a lot of crashes actually. Kind of like right there, we're getting a little bit. It's not as interesting as I would hope, I guess. Like, it may not be worth a stockpile throw in, but it's there if we need to add it. If we get sort of chaotic corruption, we can always add this on top of it after the fact. Okay. And then the last component is the system bus. We're most likely going to get something with this. Right now we only have an intensity of 30 though. Let's bring that up to 150. Already we're missing a character. Can we select him? He's up here apparently. The most fierce Viking in the world has been thrown out into space. We are still using tilt values. I'm going to leave that just for a sec. I'm curious what else we can get out of the tilt values of this. We have a constantly falling Viking. Ooh, that's not right. Let's go and restart here. Reset the player location. Also, what's going on there? What's that little guy? Who's that? It's sure got some pretty crashes. Like, nice visuals. He's just sliding towards us slowly. Now that's a neat one. I want to see if I can keep something like that. And just the space in the background, that's kind of pretty. Okay, so we can definitely mess with System Bus, of course. And, you know, I'd almost like to keep System Bus for our first corruption type, but we'll move around a little bit more before we do that. Now we're going to switch from tilt types in the Nightmare Engine to random types. This should have more of a dramatic effect, I believe. Yeah, look at the character switching with the music. Or I guess the iteration steps in this case. Oh! Oh, so you can't fall. You're just infinitely jumping. What did you do to Olaf? He's become a cube. I know, God. Poor Olaf. These guys are gonna be in for much worse than any aliens could ever do to them. Corrupting from within. What is this? Space junk flying at us. Lights off. Oh, there he goes. Come back. There he is. Oh, we're also upside down now. The hole has been breached. Oh, well said. I mean, if you thought he was a Swift before, look at him upside down. That takes true skill. have a bad feeling about this. Yeah. Passer to great. Okay, we've been through that. I was gonna keep repeating the text. Oh no. What if we can corrupt out of it? No! It's just making it worse. I am Bullock the Fierce. I am the toughest Viking. Alright. Time to do some real corruptions with the with the glitch harvester. Let's give that a go. So we're gonna load our fresh save state now. And I would like to continue with the system bus. Now, as was before when we were doing sort of reconnaissance, we can manually blast the corruption in real time as many times as we want. However, that doesn't work as well for the glitch harvester since we only get a one shot or like one blast at the ROM, and then we have to play it from that point on. No more manual blasting after the fact. So we're going to increase our intensity for that matter up to, let's say, 2,000. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look for something that just draws our interest. So I'm going to hit this blast send button now on the glitch harvester. Every single time we're going to see a... Oh, was that a crash off the bat? That was. He feels in pain and then he crashes the game. Also very pretty one. You'll see a bunch of save states being populated here in the stash history, and once we find one we like, we're gonna edit that and throw it into our stockpile. The advantage of Glitch Harvester is you can just set up a few parameters and then just blast out a bunch of save states. Like, this is kind of interesting. I almost want to keep this. The text keeps repeating that. Again. Let's give it a little bit more. That's a maybe in my book. We don't want too much flashing on screen. We got a lot there. Olaf disappears again. Ooh, bad crash. Now it looks like a rave. Yeah, it does. A lot of these are gonna start looking like raves. They got a lot of flashing lights. I have a bad feeling about this. We're gonna see that text a lot, and I'm glad we will. This is a nice color change. Look at that. It's all like aquamarine. Can I just... How easy is this gonna be? I hope it's gonna be easy. Oh, this is taking much longer than I thought. There we go. We're gonna put that right there. Alright, moving on. We're gonna keep blasting it. How would I do? Where'd that go? Disappear? Oh, because I closed the window. Shoot. Do you want to give up? Wait, was that off the bat? Is that what this, like, loads? No, okay. I was gonna say. Let's go, once our stash history starts filling up with a lot of stuff, we kind of want to clear it, so we're gonna clear it out, just so we don't have so many in there. Oh, that's a lot of clown vomit. Look at that. Jesus. That's that's kind of neat looking. The falling effect, while I like it, let's see if we can remove it. Just because I want to see if I can keep that background. So this, well, yeah, I want to see if I can keep the background because then we could just have like a space and no back hole. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pause this real quick and we're gonna go over sanitizing a corruption. And this is probably one of the most important things I do, and if anyone ever wants to become a, yeah, what a mess, you can say that again. If anyone wants to go through corrupting, I highly recommend sanitizing your corruptions. It will improve stability of your corruption in the long run, and if you happen to give anyone this stockpile and they want to play it for a few seconds, like 3 or 4 seconds after they actually see the corruption, you don't want it to crash immediately. So what we're going to do is we're going to sanitize it. We're going to remove unnecessary memory writes that just either ruin the corruption or, what a mess. Thank you for saying it again. You took me literally. Excess memory writes that we don't need, and they just either create visual tears or they actually crash the game, stuff like that. So now, within this list, every single unit or every single memory right here has a check mark next to it, and that means it's currently enabled. So if we want to disable a corruption, like let's take a couple of these off and load the corruption without those enabled, one of those actually pertain to the background thing that we were seeing. That's actually amazing. Out of 2,000 of those memory writes, I randomly guessed which one, or one of those ones that actually create that effect. I'm curious which one it is. Is it the very top one? I'm gonna be amazed if it is. It's nuts. Oh, it just happens after a couple seconds. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Anyways, what we're gonna do is, because there's 2,000 memory writes here, there's a lot of memory writes, and we don't want to go through the time of disabling each individual one and figure out what each individual one does. It would take too long. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna rely on the power of randomness by clicking on this random disable 50% button. It will randomly disable 50% of the units, or the memory writes, and then we can load the corruption from that point. And there we go. We actually see it affect immediately, and its effect I think I would like to keep. So it's not stuttering anymore, it's not extremely slow, and we see the background flying by. However, what we're missing is that sort of flickering color effect that I liked, and I would like to see if I can keep, depending on how intense it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try inverting this corruption, seeing the other half of the stockpile. And in this case, we actually just have the falling Viking. Now, I didn't want to keep this specific corruption, so we're going to stick with this first half, where we have this effect going on. But without that color corruption, we're going to need to re-roll our 50% in order to try to find it in another location, essentially. So in this case, we have the scrolling background, but no color changes, and we're stuttering. We're going to try that again. In this case, we have the falling Viking, but nothing else really. We're going to swap. We have the color changing background and the glowing Vikings, but that's not as much of an issue. So let's go ahead and remove disabled and randomly disable 50% again. In this case, we have the red background, but not the coloration, so I'm going to re-roll. We have the red Vikings, but not the background. There's the background, but no coloration. And as you can see, if you have like 1 or 2 features that you're looking for, it's going to be a lot of re-rolling and a lot of patience in order to get what you're looking for. Now, unfortunately, this is more intense than I wanted. Like, that flickering in the background is kind of intense. And originally I had just wanted just that slow stuttering one. So, I'm not sure where to move from here. I'm going to keep sanitizing it until we just have that effect, and see if I can either slow down the effect or the amount of flickers per second or something like that, how quickly it changes. It may not be possible, but I want to see if I can. So I'm just going to continue in the fashion that we were before, just trying to remove the unnecessary memory writes and just keep that flickering effect. Actually, we only kept the red one in this case. You know what? Let's just keep the red effect. Let's keep this. No flicker. Just a red fill screen. Because then from there we might be able to change the color of the red, and I think that will achieve an effect. It's not like a glowing effect that I wanted, but yeah, it's enough we can deal with. Okay, so now we have a singular unit, blast unit, or I should say memory rights, and that specific memory right sets the value in the system bus at source address 9A199A with the parameter value 3C. And when you write that little tiny byte into memory, it creates this effect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to send that to our stash with this button down here. That'll put it as the most recent item in our stash history over here. And now we can throw that on our stockpile, and we can call it about Blood Geyser. Just as a real simple name. I also hope I spelled Geyser right. Doesn't need to be too descriptive. I think I'm happy with that. Now from this, let's see what else we can create with this same memory address. So we have a source address. We're writing the value 3C. And you might be like me and you wonder, you know, what if you write a different value? What if it's not 3C, but it's, how about 2C? What does that do? Well, let's load the corruption again. And it doesn't look like it does a whole lot. Let's try, how about just 0? Alright, so 0 does nothing. How about a maximum value of FF, or 255? That actually does a lot of stuff. So that gives sort of the red color effect in the background, but there's a lot of glowing things on it. I have no clue what any of that glowing stuff is. Let's try, how about 9F? That actually put it outside. How about that? That's kind of a neat effect in itself. Can we adjust? Well, let's see if we can mess with it a little bit more. How about A is the next value, AF? Okay, so that still writes over the screen. A0. Oh, it's actually space there. So that's actually the normal looking effect that we were looking for. This is almost what I wanted to keep. You know, I'm curious, let's send that to our stash. We can call it something like exposed space. Yeah. And so, as you saw, I was kind of experimenting with the blast editor, trying to figure out what some of these values do. And this is a good practice to get in the habit of. I mean, you can figure out what's going on with these memory addresses, what's going on with the parameter values. Like, maybe I'm curious, like, I'm done with this specific source address. I don't care about what happens there anymore. Let's increase the source address by a value of 1. So now it's 9A199A. We're going to increase it to 9A199B. And we're setting the same value that we have currently of A5 to that memory address. And in fact, nothing happens at all. There's nothing stored there. Let's go back to two source addresses. And that actually has something that we're looking for. So in the background, we see some kind of corruption going on. Let's change the parameter value again since we had something similar happen earlier. Let's do FF again. That does seem to affect outside, but we want more indoors if we can. We're going to try 0. That's normal. How about 50? Still affects outside. Nothing that I'm looking for because, unfortunately, it's only in that little tiny window. However, we do know that this has something to do with that scrolling effect. Maybe it's some kind of overflow that we're accidentally triggering or something along those lines. Let's decrease the source address one more time backwards. And that has 0 effect. So it's only these two source addresses, 999 and 99A. Alright, so we figured out a little bit about that. I'm kind of happy with the two we have. We have Explored Space and Blood Geyser. Two very similar effects. The only thing that we're changing at all is the coloration. We figured out a little bit of stuff about the window, but nothing that we actually want to throw on the stockpile. And that's our reasoning for how I at least go about corruptions. Like, I find stuff like that. If it piques my interest, I'll play around with memory a little bit, see if I can find some data around the area that we're looking. If I can create different corruptions out of it, great. If I can't, I'll leave it be and move on. One last thing that I forgot to talk about is the reroll button that unfortunately isn't on screen right now. It's a little hidden button, but instead of specifically going within the blast editor and changing this parameter value like A0, instead I can have it like instead of changing it manually to 4-4, for example, and load the corruption and seeing what happens, I can instead rely once again on randomness in order to set this value at that same source address without changing the source address. Just send random values to that source. And I'm going to use the reroll button for that, so it's just going to do random values. And we can take a look and see if we get anything new. Each one of these new values is going to be stored in the stash history, and we can actually take a look at one of these and see that now the value is C0. The previous one that we just did was 1-8, and neither of those seem to have any effect. We're going to keep going. There's the red effect that we accidentally got. There's actually a black one that's not only space, but it's also sort of that corrupted looking space. And this is just a good way to make sure you didn't miss anything. Like there's also the black space outside. We get kind of a broad overview of what we can expect from corrupting it. So that's about everything that I have available in my toolbox. From there, we're just going to be messing with memory domains and using different corruption engines depending on what we find with the domains. For the time being, though, I'm happy with the results that we're getting for system bus, so I'm going to continue with that fashion. We're still going to use random blast types for the time being, and we're going to start with a brand new corruption. And that first one is a crash, so we're just going to keep hitting blast send until we find something that we like looking at. This one looks horrifying to say the least. Little space spikes. That one's kind of neat. I like that. I mean, even before we can force movement. I want to take a look at this one. So that effect interested me. I kind of want to keep that spotlight effect going on, and I also don't want that to be eliminated the second that I move. Let me see if I can do that. So I'm going to open this in our blast editor once again. We have 2,000 memory rights. We want to knock that down to 1, so we're going to go through here and randomly disable 50% until we just get a single memory right. And all we're looking for is that spotlight effect. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I will stop counting. And I accidentally messed up on that. I moved too quickly. So if you accidentally mess up while you're sanitizing, you always reopen the original in the stash history. I think I deleted one while I wasn't supposed to, and that messed with it. So let's do this one more time. Also, if you look outside, it looks like there's a little bit of, not just randomness, more like a palette outside. So that's kind of interesting. Or at least palette items, so walls and interiors and whatnot. Alright, there we go. So we have a single memory address. So it's just B70397, writing value 19 in the system bus. That creates the spotlight. Now, I stated that I don't exactly have the effect I'm looking for, because the second I move one of my characters, the effect gets destroyed. And I'm curious, since we're setting this value in memory, and normally what happens when you see the spotlight is the second the character moves, it does get eliminated. That value in memory switches to like 0 or something, and it doesn't allow the spotlight to be on screen anymore. What if we use something like Cheat Engine to always force that parameter value to keep its value, or that parameter variable to keep its value? We can do that. Real quick, we can just do it in the Blast editor. I usually use like a shell, like a dummy corruption, so I can use that in the Blast editor, but we're just going to do it right here. So we're going to use a Blast Cheat type. And by typing in Blast Cheat, it automatically fills in a couple, actually only one other parameter, the Blast Unit mode, which instead of, I forgot what it was before, byte. It was a set value. We could also do stuff like subtract and adding and stuff like that. Because we're setting the value 19 in memory. When we switch to blast cheat types, we are now held genie, or also known as cheat engine, so we're forcing the value 19 at that source address. No matter what, keep that address. Keep that variable, or keep that value at that address. So let's go ahead and load that corruption. Okay, so what we see on screen, same thing, nothing's changed, but if I move one of the characters, interesting, so it kind of works, but only a little bit. So moving the character still does do that sort of function where it like eliminates the spotlight, and probably it's something within the code that says like if the character's moving, you know, don't draw any spotlights. But the second that the character stops, that parameter value switches back to 19 as we set it, so we have the spotlight once again. So, is this good enough to throw on the stockpile? I think it kinda is, because we did a little bit of work to get it. Is it super interesting? Not necessarily, but we can use it maybe for a different corruption later on. Like, sort of, we can piece the corruptions together, and if we find usually like, well, I'll take a good visual and a good music corruption and slam them together. We might be able to utilize this later on. So we're gonna throw this onto the stockpile, and we'll call it what would we call this? I was gonna call it emergency power spotlight. That's all it kind of reminds me of. All right, and we can now try some other stuff, like we can re-roll this value. Re-rolling, I don't believe will do anything else. It's probably if this value is non-zero, then draw the spotlight to the screen. Kind of like a Boolean true-false. All right, so no changes there. I am curious what's around this area, so I'm gonna switch the source address by 1 byte over. 1 bit over, actually, in this case. No changes, and no changes. Okay. All right, so that's everything we need to know. We can now move on to a new corruption. And all my parameters are set. Nightmare Engine 2000. Good. That's a crash. Oh god. Look at that corruption. Over time. Slow but assured destruction. Oh, what this one is. Camera adjust. Camera tilt. Ooh. Wow, look at that last one. Look at that piece of art. Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, it's a crash. Man, that would be a very pretty crash if we could still play it in the sense, and those 3 little lines in the center were actually the characters. Wow. This game has such pretty crashes. I'm very happy with these results. This one is also a crash. Very pretty in how ugly they are. That one's not as intense of a flashing effect. Like that one I can almost deal with. Still not enough to throw it on the stockpile now, unfortunately. I can re-roll it to see if we get a different 8T to get a different effect out of it. We don't need to sanitize in order to re-roll. We can do it at any point. The only downside with rerolling stuff like this is you might be either more susceptible to crash or you just might not find what you're looking for. This one, like, just the trusses are glowing, and that's it. It's only part of the truss, though, unfortunately. We'll move on. Shall we? I think we shall switch to a different memory domain. Let's start messing with WRAM. We got 2000 right now. Got some guys messed up. We're going in different directions. This guy fell to the ground. Ooh. Instant crash. Look at that corruption. It's so pretty. I want that on my wall. Changing colors and like that. Like little fibers. Ah. Pretty. Now this is funny. We've seen this background corruption a lot when it crashes, but this is the first time it's actually been able to run in this crash mode. Or this crash background. This is just more clown moment. Very pretty clown moment though. No, the level's running away from you. Oh, it's only that little bit of the level though, unfortunately. I'd love to see it where the entire level started running away from you and you had to catch up to it. There's an audio corruption. 2 times speed. Do you want to keep this? Maybe reroll? In order to keep that, we would need... Well, hearing it so fast makes me think that we might be able to make it slow, and that idea is very exciting to me. So let's sanitize it. Sanitizing music corruption can sometimes be tricky because it could be a hybrid corruption, a formulation of a lot of different memory rights, but I think in this case it's probably just going to be one. Like maybe some kind of speed setting or speed variable. Let's see if we can just locate that. Okay, we have a single memory write. It is the effect we're looking for, which is a good sign. We can now send this to our stash, and I'm very curious about what these values do. Let's start this off with just setting this parameter value to be 0. Now that's a normal speed from the sound of it. Let's try setting it to about 1-0. Instantly insanely fast. Let's try FF. Oh! But it went back to normal. That's interesting. FF is just no audio. No, there's audio. It just takes a sec. That's interesting. I can't figure out what's doing that. Right now we're setting a value. I'm gonna need to subtract or subtract. I think it's subtract in order to get like. Well. FF technically would be like almost a negative value because it's an overflow. So what if we have like a really high value like F8? About C8. B8. A0. No, nothing. Wow. Alright. 8-0. There's the fast I was looking for. Let's re-roll this a couple times. I'm curious. Maybe I'm not just being random enough with my guesses. No, definitely being random enough. All right. We'll just take one of these at random and start sanitizing it some more, or take a look at what we can do with it. We had a little bit of a crash here. Possible crash. Yep, full crash. We have an emergency save as stockpile, which is very useful. I'm going to call this Vikings stockpile. If the emulator is starting to fail, then we have a real quick last second to save our stockpile. It offers us a quick save state, which is very useful sometimes. I'm going to pause the emulator in this case. I'm actually going to reboot core as well. And I believe that stockpile is saved. Make sure I have it again. Worrisomely, I don't... Yes, I do have it. Okay. Good, good, good. We're going to kill and restart the emulator. It's a little chimney sound you hear there. It seems that BizHawk is frozen up, so we're going to restart BizHawk as well. Even though that was the emulator we just had open. In this case, it did do a full crash, so what we're going to do is we're going to restart all of our tools. I think that's going to be the best bet, otherwise we're going to be finicking around too long. Sorry, most of this starts up pretty quickly. And thanks to the power of OBS, most of this stays in place. Okay. Now with the glitch harvester open, we had our emergency stockpile, so we can actually just load that stockpile very luckily. And I named it Viking stockpile. And now you'll see that those 3 save states, right by our little face there, right down there, are actually still loaded into the glitch harvester. So we can actually just click on those and load them. And there we go, our 3 save states are still there, and that's actually how our stockpiles work. You can just play them from the stockpile directly, because it has all the jump states, all the ROMs, yada yada. Speaking of ROMs, this is my own personal copy of The Lost Vikings for the SNES. I purchased this a long time ago. I think at a yard sale, but anyways, personal copy of it. I ripped the SNES ROM for it, and that's why I'm currently playing it on emulator, even though I can't do direct hardware corruptions. I don't still have the hardware for it at the moment. So that's why I'm using emulator as after the fact, so I need to rip my own copy in order to legally play it. Anyways, let's move on. We're going to still do WRAM. So we were having some kind of luck here and there with WRAM. We do need to make another save state. Luckily we have one saved here. So we're going to make another save state in the glitch harvester. Our corruption intensity is going to stay about 2000. I'm thinking we should switch from random types to tilt types. I have a bad feeling about this. They say as they're all corrupted and messed up. Okay, let's do some tilt types. I am curious what we're going to get with that. So kind of like, reasonably, this looks pretty to me. It's like opacity on the ship. It's like a very broken ship. You know, we could almost roll with that. Let's see if we can sanitize this and make it look a little bit prettier. Now, since we are using tilt types, you can see actually specifically here in the blast editor, what I was talking about earlier, given a source address, all we're doing is adding a value to that source address, that value being the value of 1. Now after the fact, we can still adjust this value. Say we want to add the value of 5, add the value of 20. So we can change the variable by any amount we want. Just by default, tilt types are going to be 1. Now, we're gonna start trying to see if we can keep this sort of corrupted look to the ship. I think it's more like a crash ship. It looks nice. That look right there. Okay, nearly there. Lucky for us, it is pretty much just 2 memory writes. Or a single memory write, I should say. Single one here. We can send that to the stash, and I'm just going to throw it directly on the stockpile as is, and we'll call this Crash Ship. Is that the best name we can give? You can do say like Damage Ship, but Crash Ship works for me. Now, given the blast editor as we saw before, at a source address 454, we're only setting a value of 1, and we're subtracting that. Now, re-rolling it will only switch whether it's addition or subtraction, in the case of tilt types. So if I open this most recent one, all we're doing at 454 is just adding the value of 1. It's not changing the actual parameter value. We're not adding and increasing, decreasing by values of, say, 5 or 10 or 15. We're only doing 1, and in order to see more dramatic effects, we need to do those dramatic effects ourselves. So we're going to try a maximum value of FF. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this will actually affect anything on screen, since I think if this is a non-zero value, this look applies. We're going to try a 0 now. That does seem to be the case. So if that's anything other than 0, we see this corrupted look. Like that. Alright, so we learned a little bit more about it, and we're ready to move on to our next corruption. So we're going to clear our stash history here. We're still going to be corrupting WRAM, and I'd like to still keep using tilt types. So let's go ahead and blast send this. In this case, we have sort of a melting effect. Our HUD's melting, and there's a full-on crash, a really pretty one too. Look at that. We'll keep moving on. I have a bad feeling about this. He says as he melts into the ground. Some nice coloration here. Nothing I want to keep though. Keeping an eye out for something that's sort of interesting, either mechanical effects or that. So if I could have that as a permanent effect, and if I could move them around, I would be extremely happy. Unfortunately, now I can't move them around. I'm curious if I can prevent that. We are still using the Nightmare engine, so it may be possible. We're gonna open this in our blast editor and try to sanitize it a bit, see if we can just keep that face effect. It's a little tricky though, since, let's see. As long as he does that, I think we're good. And we're gonna use the Nightmare engine in order to make it a permanent effect. That works like cheat engine, where it forces a variable to keep its value. Alright, there we go. We have a single memory writes, and we're going to send that to our stash. However, I'm going to immediately change the blast unit type. I'm going to switch it to a blast cheat type. That will be like Hell Genie. And then let's try loading that. You know, that's even better. So I can't control the guy. All I can do is switch his direction, but I can catch up to him like this. Oh, until he eventually gets attacked and killed. That's horrifying. Okay, that was Eric the Swift, right? Yeah. So we're going to call this, we're going to send it to our stash. We'll say Eric is ticklish? How about that? I want to say something with the tomato. How do I pronounce that? Eric is ticklish though. I kind of like that on its own. Rerolling this, I don't think we'll get any other effect out of it. We can also try manually changing these values. Right now it's 1. We can try... How about 2? 2, we do not keep the effect, so there's no point in going further from there. We can now move on with a brand new corruption. In which case, is he constantly blowing? That's what it looks like. Oh, until we became a brick. Okay, let's see if we can save that. Because him constantly blowing also kind of seems like a funny corruption to me. Also kind of looks like Olaf's getting into it too. He like leans forward. Now this is tricky. Sometimes this effect is in neither 50%, so it's not in this half, and it's not in this half, so I have to re-roll my 50% once again. Ooh, thank you for the follow. Who's that? Sleepless Thoughts is now hosting. Oh, that wasn't even a follow, that was a host. I appreciate it, man. We're doing a little bit of corrupting for Lost Vikings. And right now we're getting... even though it looks kind of bad, but we're getting Eric to store food in his cheeks for the winter. Right now I'm just sanitizing the corruption a little bit. Just to make sure it's a little more stable. May need to go through that one more time. Just to go, since we have a new... One of your favorite old games? Well, awesome, dude. You get to see it in a little bit of a different light if you're curious. We've been just corrupting it along, so we've been messing with the visuals here and there. Like you have a blood geyser, or we got exposed space, just some sort of right over the screen a bit. We got an emergency power spotlight, where the character moves and it immediately puts a spotlight around. Crash ship for a little bit of a graphic change. And Eric is ticklish. So that's what we've been working on for... How long have we been shooting for? About an hour so far. But yeah, thank you for the host. I'm glad you stopped on by. Yeah, we're gonna spend a little bit longer just trying to sanitize Eric here a little bit more. However, it's not playing nice when we try to sanitize it. You know what? Let's try to move on to a fresh one since we got some new people. We're just gonna blast this a couple times to see what kind of effect we get. Just a warning to people that are in chat, if you're sensitive to flashing light or bright colors or anything like that, I do have a precaution. We do have a lot of flashing lights this stream, so if you're sensitive to that type of material, it may not be the content for you. So just a forewarning for that. Anyways, we have flashing lights immediately. I remember having the same face back in the band days. What, did you eat too much? You store the food? We're gonna throw that on the stockpile because I want to sanitize that eventually. Wherever it is. It's somewhere down here. There it is. I'm gonna put 2 sanitize. Alright. Moving on. Some of the ways that this crashes is just too beautiful for it. It's like, look at that. That looks like a masterpiece. I would love that on a wall. Or as like a profile picture or something like that. It looks like Eric is an orc. He's got green skin. What was that? What are you dancing on? Too interesting. Also, the turret down there is freaking out. Now the music's gone. What do you think you're doing, my tree? And it crashes. Let's try sanitizing that. Let's see what else we can get out of that. Hopefully something. So we're just gonna try to keep that text on the screen. I don't even know who that's talking. That's not one of these guys. Okay, there we go. Got a single memory rights, setting to D7A, parameter value 1, adding, sending to the stash, and throwing it not in stockpile yet. I want to see if there's any... So it's only one voice line, unfortunately. Let's see if we can change the voice line that we send. So right now we're sending 1. Let's try sending 2. Nothing there. How about we try changing the source address by 1? That's kind of interesting. By changing the source address by 1, so moving 1 byte or bit in memory over, we make this apple fall. For some weird reason. Let's go 2 back. And no effect here, so unfortunately this text is just kind of randomly out of nowhere. But we can keep it. I will say... dude, where's my tree? There we go. Took a little while, right? And let's move on. We're gonna do a fresh corruption. So we're stuck to the roof. Oh, and we disappear after a second. Okay, what I'd like to do, because we've seen a lot of this level, let's move on to another world. So I'm gonna pull up World 2. Let me reboot the core. And we'll fast forward through the intro. And type in a password for World 2. We're just gonna do the first level. We're missing O. Wait a minute. There's no... Oh, there's only P? What? That's a 0. Oh, probably is 0. OLM 0. Ah. That's why I was confused. So corrupting means randomly changing a bunch of values or variables, and sanitizing means undoing some of those changes, trying to keep a specific range. You got it, totally. So yeah, corrupting is throwing a bunch of just randomness at the ROM, changing a bunch of variables, or just writing really random bits, because there's not really variables that are defined, at least in the sense that we can see them. And then sanitizing is exactly, you're kind of going back and removing the excess corruptions that you didn't really want. So it's like, it's more likely that we're going to get an interesting effect if we throw 2,000 bits at the ROM, rather than just corrupting it 1 bit at a time, trying to find something interesting. But when you do 2,000 bits at the ROM, you sort of dial it back and clean it up a little bit, and then you got a nice little presentation that you can show to someone. And yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but I usually like the results. I made about 25 stockpiles so far. And yeah, lots of games I've done from NES to GameCube, and I've liked a lot of the results on some of these. That was intense, what a ride. I think I'm gonna be sick. Alright, we're gonna get another save state here. Save state 2. And we'll begin corrupting just with a little bit of change of scenery, which should be nice. not on the ship anymore. We are switching from the Nightmare Engine tilt types to Nightmare Engine random types. Real quick though, I do want to play around just with the Distortion Engine. Won't do anything. The Freeze Engine will. We're going to just manually blast the ROM. The Freeze Engine will, based on a variable like a source address, it will freeze that variable and not let it change for a certain amount of time. I think it needs to be auto-corrupted for that to happen. You never beat this game? I never beat this game either. How far did you get? I didn't even know there was like... I know there are worlds, but I didn't think that they were defined in the sense that you have so many levels to a world until I looked it up. Apparently there's 6 worlds. I don't think I ever got past like 3. Because I remember this area a little bit. But just very vaguely when I played it. What were we doing? We were... Freeze Engine not going to work. Pipe Engine, if you take... given a source address, take the variable at that source address and pipe it to a different source address or a different domain or a different location within memory, I should say, and change that variable. So sometimes you can get interesting graphical glitches with that. This one, for a second there, you can see the dinosaur up at the top where the HUD's supposed to be, which is supposed to be happening. So I can guess that the sprite was being drawn there for a sec. That's kind of what the pipe engine does. Alright, going back, so this is save state 2, there we go. However, Pipe Engine, Freeze Engine, and Distortion Engine are all used for real-time corruptions. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're only doing Glitch Harvester, which I don't believe will play nice. It doesn't quite work right. We're more, I guess, inclined or lucky with the Nightmare Engine and the Hell Genie Engine. With that being said, we're going to switch now to, we're going to try some cart ROM corruptions, which we had a little bit of luck earlier with. We need to knock back our intensity back to, let's say, 300, and blast that a couple times. So that's interesting. So it loaded alright, like let me bring this back. Load alright, but the second you start walking forward, it knocks you back, it looks like to the end of the level, and you can't progress. It just kind of keeps snapping this camera back. Kind of an interesting effect. I don't know what caused that, or why it keeps happening. Also looks like the camera's moving down slightly. I'm going to use turbo here for a sec to see if we can notice anything. Not really. Alright. We can try re-rolling this to see if we can change that effect. Try it again. That one's a crash. Not much of changes. Just a little bit. Alright, starting fresh. I see a lot of that screen probably. Especially with cart ROM. We froze the water. That's kind of cool. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Let's go back there for a sec. We're very quickly advancing the back of the map. That'll just give you, if you looked at that for too long, probably give you motion sickness. But only for, well, no, just keep doing it. Oh yeah, walk to the right to advance the map. That's kind of neat. It must loop, but I wonder if there is an end to it. Yeah, it probably loops back on itself. We could be able to check by just progressing through the level. It is kind of motion sick inducing. Oh, shoot. I'm not trying my hardest to actually progress. I should be trying, but... Okay, let's give that another run. Now we need the right key. Alright, I'm not progressing too much. I like this corruption a lot though, so let's go ahead and take this. We're going to randomly disable 50%, we're going to sanitize it, clean up a bit. In order to check if it persists, we need to just move the character to the right a little bit, so like that. Enough to get the screen itself to move. So this is actually the normal operation. This is what it should look like. Maybe barely any movement at all. Actually, it almost looks like we're loading it so fast because of how quickly we're moving, it corrupts at the end, because that was the end of the level. It's only supposed to span that little tiny bit. There we go. Got a single memory right. We're gonna throw it on the stash. And we'll call it, I mean, shoot. They all have it, otherwise I would say Eric the Hedgehog. I kinda still like that though. Let's say Eric the Hedgehog. Well, because it reminds me of that sort of scrolling effect in the background being more intense. It kinda gives you the idea that you're moving fast. Alright. Time to re-roll that, see if we can affect it any further. It looks like we can affect the speed. Yeah, the speed at which we move. I like the other one, I think, more because it's more subtle. It's not... And this one's really gonna get me sick. And this one's just speed of light. I think I'm happy with Eric the Hedgehog. I mean, that's a slow one. Kind of gives you an idea what's going on in the background. Alright, moving on. Fresh corruption. We crash as soon as we touch a ladder. Sky's broken. If you want to move right, Eric vibrates very angrily. He doesn't want to go. Oh, that was actually really funny to me. Do I want to sanitize this one? Yeah, I do. Luckily for us, since we don't have as high of an intensity, we only have we start with a blast layer size of 400, or only 400 memory writes. So it makes things a lot faster in terms of going through this and removing the unnecessary memory writes. Also, it's actually two effects. One effect is him stopped... Oh, look at that. What a weird effect. Also, that shouldn't have happened. What? What? How did we progress in the level? What? Oh, that's not right at all. We're doing very bad things. I think we're jumping, and jumping is reaching the exit or something, and it's progressing us. Speedrun? Did he die? That looks like he's dead. Wow, I don't know. I can't really keep it like this. That's a lot of effects to keep track of. So we need jumping in order to advance in level, and also walking to the left vibrates him. Okay, let's try to keep those two effects. And then immediately I lose the two effects by accident. Shoot. Alright. There we go. Those are the two. What are we breaking today? We are breaking the Lost Vikings, and currently we have kind of an odd one going on. So originally it was anytime Eric would move to the left, he would just vibrate, and that made me laugh, so I kept it. But now it's anytime that we jump in the air, we advance a level. And I don't know why. I don't know what brought that about. Anyways, it's good to see you. Good to see you. I never pronounced your name right. I'm so sorry. Is there a nickname I can give you? I want to say Zidane, but I don't think that's correct. I'm so sorry. Z? Oh, Z is so much easier. I'm totally gonna go with Z. What's up, Z? Good to see you, man. Man and or woman, I'm actually not sure, but good to see you anyway. So yeah, that's what we got so far. I'm gonna try to see if I can finish sanitizing this. We're almost there. And I think it's 2 different effects. Yeah. Oh no. It's actually 1 effect. Cool. That's interesting. We will throw this on the stash. Broski. Okay. Good to see you, Broski. Let's see. We'll call him... I don't know if anyone's played Blinks the Time Sleeper. Blinks the Time Sweeper, which was a fantastic game. That's what I'm going to call it that, because I can't think of any other, like, time jumping effect. Be like a time portal. How about... Well, it's not really Back to the Future, I could say that, though. Eric goes Back to the Future. There we go. We can now reroll that effect to see if we get anything else out of it. This one we don't vibrate, and we also don't teleport. Vibrate and teleport. I think that's probably the extent of what we're gonna see. Either effect or no effect. Yeah. Alright, moving on. We're gonna do a fresh corruption here. Got a little bit of an earthquake going on. Gonna re-roll that and see if we can get a more intense earthquake. Yeah, we can. There we go. Oh. Oh, that's an interesting one. Whoa, wait. No, where'd he go? Let's go back to that one. So, moving on screen. What effect is that? What is even happening? Man, I want to throw that on the stockpile, but yeah, he did just fly away. He flew out of the ground. Superman. It's a cool effect because I like this part, but I wish the camera can't stay with him though. I think we gotta move on. Very cool effect though. Oh, this one he just literally flies away. You know, we might be able to keep that effect. Unless he... maybe not. Yeah, he actually stops after a certain height, unfortunately. Very cool, let's move on. Lots of camera effects, I'm pretty happy with that. And that's when we're stuck in place. Nice scenic view of the mountains there that you don't normally get to see because all the background's covering it. Along with a harmonic. So let's see, I can't jump. To jump, I just knee the ground a little bit. Can't climb. Alright. We have kind of like a hover... oh. Oh! Wait a minute. Can I get to the exit like that? Yeah, we have sort of a hover effect for that one. fell into the ground and got to the next level. Man, the land of many stairs. What? Whoa, look at that face. I think we're gonna replace our image here. There we go. Make that nice and tall. There we go. We can sort by... Do we sort by time? No, we don't. Well, let's just cover the stock pile a little bit. Alright, moving on. That froze there, unfortunately. Nope. Oh no, it's just pause. No. Anyway. Wow, these are lots of crashes. There we go. Stuck in place there. I'm gonna try knocking back the intensity just because of all the crashes we're getting. We're gonna knock it back to 150. Unfortunately, we don't get as many interesting corruptions immediately with that. But we also see less crashes, which is nice. You get past that imaginary boulder. What is the waterfall? What is any of this? It's like the place is in a drought. Oh wow, does the level keep repeating? Looks like it does. Look at that. Same exact level all the way down. Look at that, Blizzard. Originality. Anywho. Something there's not quite right. Huh. Alright, we're going to try switching up our corruption type. Right now we're using random types. We're going to try tilt types now, and that means we can increase our intensity most likely to around 350. Because it should be a little bit safer than random types. Hopefully. However, I may eat my words, because it doesn't look like it has been so far. Wait, no! I was like, they came with me. Are they still going? Where are they going? Everything just took off. Whoa. There's the entire universe in one corrupted line. Oh god, what was that? Awful color palette. There's numbers on the ground, and they're 1337. That's some leaked text right there. Man. Blizzard was edgy before it was cool. Do we advance levels again? We did. What is up with this game and advancing levels when you jump? Such a frequent corruption. Wow, how about that? We got the spotlight effect we had before. Found in the wild. That's kind of cool. We're also cheaposing. not interesting enough to throw on a stockpile, but still kind of cool to look at or see. Oh, that's cool to see. Look at all that flickering. Oh, your friends slowly sink into the quicksand. Oh, they're there. Okay, never mind. This is the true Viking burial. Look at him flexing as he goes down like a true Viking. Right? Honestly. Yeah, this moves everything by me. I walk in the center. Interesting. Alright. I think we're going to try switching it from... So we know VRAM doesn't do anything, we know OEM doesn't do anything, we know CGRAM doesn't do anything. So I think the only last thing we got to try is System Bus a little bit more. Let's do... Actually, let's try some Hell Genie with the cart ROM. Just while we can try that corruption engine. Let's give that a go. Of course, that's going to be limited by the amount of max cheats, not by our intensity, so I'm just going to adjust this value instead, or bring that up to 250. It can be kind of processor intensive, so I usually don't do too large of one. This one we're frozen. Crashed. The enemies are kind of losing it. Can't take any keys. Should see if they're alright. Yeah, right? Oh, they're kind of losing it. Let's see if we can re-roll that one. Yeah, same effect. All right. Blast in a new one. Gorgeous corruption. The ones that like aren't so full of patterns, that are just kind of random and chaotic. Those are the ones I really dig. Just gonna take that face there. Wait a minute. Bite again. Oh, he like bites and then he feels bad that he didn't get you. Oh, unless he does get you and then you just kind of lose it. Screaming into the abyss. It's funny, you pop out of a hill. Look at that. Oh wait, unless you crash. I've been pretty happy with these results. Let's now switch it up. We are going to go to the system bus, and we've already done the Nightmare engine for the system bus, so we've tried random values with that. Now we're going to try the Hell Genie engine with the system bus with that 250 max cheats, just to see what changes. I think 250 shouldn't be too bad. Let's get some falling enemies. Nothing too bad here. That's a little worse. Lots of little crashes here and there when we land. However, I'm not seeing too much with the Nightmare engine. Our intensity, I think we were doing a really high intensity before, like 2000, which we unfortunately can't do too high of an intensity here, just because I can already hear my PC chugging along. And I think the stream bitrate hasn't dropped yet, so let's try a little bit more. Bring it up to 500. Oh yeah, that's really chugging. Ooh. Look at that though, we corrupted, do you see that in the background? We actually corrupted the mountains themselves on top of the current corruption we're looking at. Let me sanitize, well. These are ROMs? Oh yeah, these are ROMs. So this is a personal rip of Lost Vikings. This is my personal version on the SNES, right? I should look at the memory domains, yes. So this is my personal copy of the game, and then I just ripped that out. And I'm corrupting in place, so this is creating a temporary backup of the ROM. Don't kill your PC there, Tech. I know you can hear it like chugging there. Let me actually pause it. So this is corrupting all in place, creating backups, and anytime I run a new save state, it's only loading that save state as is with a blast layer applied to it. So it's not actually affecting the ROM itself, it's affecting those save states. Anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna just do some more Hell Genie ones with the Nightmare engine, just to take it easy. And we're gonna try random tilt this time, intensity of 2000, keep it on the system bus, and load corruption, or load emulation. This one we got a different password for a different place. That's a cool visual. We have some, do we have anyone new with us? No, we still got the same 6 people. Very trippy background. If you're sensitive to flashing lights, I recommend not joining now. I like to keep that, I mean, look at that. Looks like a casino. It's so flashy. Tripping on acid, you say that twice over. Those Vikings do their mushrooms. Even the mountains, look at that, God. Alright, reroll and let's see if we can get a different effect out of it. Yeah, flashy sky. Actually, there is a mushroom in the background? Is that in the background? Where is that? It's right there. Anyway. Let's clear our history and start fresh. Oh, another trippy one. No enemies. It's on peaceful. Very slow there. Oh, did you hear that? Oh, he fell like a brick. Oh, the poor guy. Also, God, what kind of enemy are you? God, that's horrifying. Get away from me. Oh, there's more of them. It's supposed to be a lizard. Oh, look, look, it's missing go. Guest appearance. What? What bit us? Something, it's one bite. We have full health and then boom. No bite. Ah, gotta run downhill. There we go. Nope. How to run. There we go. Lost their beards too. Did they lose their beards? I missed that. Which one was that in? I must have put this shirt already. I missed that. Shoot. But Big Boy is still good. Oh, everything's like neon green. Radioactive site. Even the snails. Ooh. Oh, the one bite one? Oh, okay. That one's over here. This one. The big boy's good. Yeah, he's happy. I can't switch to him. So he's chilling. He looks really happy in the scene anyway. I'm gonna see if I can re-roll this. Is this a color corruption? No, it's only green or none. Alright. Invisible there. Right through the level. The exit's right around the corner here. Can't get down to it though. Password TTWSTS YNTRTTS password. Yeah. Oh, look at all those items down there. Wow, what an item cache. Can we grab all those? No. Shoot, we got fire, bombs, arrows. A whole pallet. He's making the face again. Oh, I want to keep this one too. Oh, speaking of which, I gotta sanitize this other one. Let's sanitize this one, which will probably be easier to sanitize. They're storing nuts for the winter. This one's still kind of tricky to do, shoot. It's a lot of re-rolling for kind of a small effect. There we go. Whole lot of re-rolling. I mean, shoot. Next time I see it, I almost want to just keep it. 250. There we go. 125. 62. $31. Is he fat too? I thought it was just his cheeks. So let me see. Oh, he is fat too. Look at that. We're gonna try to make that effect permanent if we can. That's what we're gonna aim for. So right now it's just setting a value in memory to like switch to that sprite. We're gonna force it to always hold that value indefinitely. And we're using that with the Hell Genie engine. Big chonkers. God. Yeah, he's supposed to be the swift one. Eric the not so swift. So it's these two memory writes together? Yeah, these two together create this effect, interestingly enough. So we're gonna send that to our stash, and I'm just gonna go off the bat and make these both cheap bites. Make it a lot easier on ourselves. So right now they are blast bites, just setting values. Now this will force values with cheap. And so that actually didn't keep the effect we're looking for. It actually did whatever this is, so he's staying in place. Kind of slipping everywhere too. Let's confirm, so if we change it to blast bite, maybe it's just one of these. This one does the speed one. Let's switch this one back to bite. Give this one a cheat. Now this one doesn't freeze them in place like the other one. Okay. Something happened here. What happened here? Also, the speed is up. Oh, it's because we're subtracting. That's what happened. Okay. So we're subtracting from WRAM at location 159, the value of 1. I think we need to figure out what that original value was. I should be able to look in memory and figure that out. I haven't figured out the tool to do so. You are given a bunch of tools with BizHawk in place, stuff like RAM Watch, RAM Search, Lua Console, etc., etc. This is within WRAM, which is... What is WRAM? It's not HRAM, it's hardware RAM. Anyways, we should be able to locate it. So let me see if I can... RAM Watch. I'm going to watch those values and see if I see their actual value within memory, essentially. That way I can sort of set it to the permanent value -1. So I'm currently adding those. It's memory addressed 0159, 0539, and WRAM, good. And 12B9. And right now, okay, apparently those are set to actually 0. So this 12B9, this one right here, seems to only be affected when the character walks, and it's whether they're walking or not. It's actually the direction they're walking. If the value is 2, which is this way, or the value is 1, which means they're walking this way. So that's that variable. We don't need to really subtract 1 from this, I don't believe. That shouldn't matter as much, but it's required for some odd reason. And only in some places he gets like the fat effect back after he flexes. So he has to flex first, and then he goes back to his jump mode. You know, we'll just keep it as is. I kind of like it. I'll send it to our stash, throw it on the stockpile, and we'll call it. Storing nuts for the winter. And we'll move that up in our stockpile and remove the 2 sanitized note. You know what, I think that's about it for the night. I mean, we've done most of the memory domains, and we've used most of the corruption engines. From now, if you wanted to do more corruptions after the fact, you would just, mess around with those domains some more, use the same corruption engines, and just spend longer on it. This is sort of just a brief overview of what you could do. Currently, I'm not uploading these stockpiles just because I'm sort of doing a culmination stockpile, but towards the end, I'll have that larger stockpile available with all my favorites. However, if you'd like to get a hold of this, feel free to DM me. I can send it out, no problem at all. I save them anyways. But yeah, let me go and make a save of this. Let me go pull up some music as well, and we'll go ahead and start wrapping stuff up here. Damn. That's actually a little bit longer than I usually do. I usually do about an hour stream, but this was corrupting pretty well. I was pretty happy with the results. So 2 hours, I'm pretty happy with the results there. Got a decent stockpile out of it too. For anyone who is either lurking from the previous hosts, or if also, I gotta pull up who hosted me. Sleepless Thoughts, if you are still around, thank you for the host, man. If anyone's sticking around, this is what I normally do on stream. I do corrupt games, NES, SNES. I've been trying to do Nintendo 64, I'm having a little trouble with that. PS1, the whole range, GameCube, Wii. All my previous VODs are on YouTube if you want to check any of those out. I make stockpiles for most of them. And yeah, that's about it. Let me go and pull up someone to host here. My streaming schedule, I usually try to stream every day if I can. Every once in a while I may miss a day, depending if I'm feeling sick or, you know, if I'm working on some corruptions outside of the stream. I've been trying to get Xbox corruptions working, like the original Xbox. I've been working with Jet Set Radio or Munch's Odyssey, trying to figure out between those two which ones I want to do. Both are kind of corrupting okay, not enough that I would want to stream it off the bat. I think I need a little bit more work, and I would need a stockpile ahead of time since there's much larger files and it's a lot trickier to corrupt them. But yeah, and take it easy, Z. Thanks for seeing you. Thanks for stopping by. And now we're gonna find someone to host. Let's take a look around. Whoever I host, I usually watch for 20 or 30 minutes, so I'm usually a little biased on who I pick, depending on what I want to watch. The music, by the way, is from World of Warcraft, the Gold Shower Tavern. Because I was in the mood for something upbeat. It takes so long to decide. I don't know why it takes so long. I should honestly just pick someone. But I say that, and yet I'm still gonna search for another 5 minutes. I'm kind of feeling some Metal Gear Solid. Let's take a look. Kind of far into the game though. There's spoilers there. I don't know about that. I always feel bad hosting speedrunners because I don't want to distract them from their run. I'm sure they're used to, like, you know, getting hosted and not glancing over and getting distracted by a worry about it. I got someone to host here, so I'm going to go and swap over. But again, thank you for everyone who was able to stop by. I'll be on tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'm corrupting yet, but if you want to see something specific, shoot me a message and I'll let you know if I can corrupt it or not. Anyways, good night, everyone.